After getting through security and to the station, they sometimes wait for hours for an Arabic translator, only to be told they don't have the right paperwork or sufficient.
So if someone doesn't call you back or doesn't answer your email, they've answered your phone call, they've answered your email, and their answer is they're not interested. And these Palestinians living in the West Bank, they've been answered, right? The Jewish state is not terribly interested in their complaints, particularly a Jewish state that is fighting for its survival.
Evidence to submit a report. As one senior Israeli military official told us, the police exhaust Palestinians so they won't file complaints.
Right. So do you want to read the facts on the ground? Right? They want you to leave, but you insist on staying where you're not wanted. So don't be surprised if you are not treated well when you insist in staying in a place where you're unwanted. You really want to live a life where people want to have you around. Right? If you keep going to work and because of workplace regulations, they're not allowed to fire you, right? It's not going to be a happy place. If you go to a church or a synagogue that doesn't particularly want you there, you go to a party where you're not invited, all right? If you insist on living in a block where everybody on your block hates you, you are just going to have a life of misery. Why not go find people who love you?
And yet, in November, with no protection from the police or the military, the former residents of Hirbet Zanuta
is moving around easy there. No, it's not easy. But if you're living in hell, why would you not be willing to do the difficult thing and move? Not easy, but better than living in hell.
And 5 nearby villages chose to test whether justice was still possible by appealing directly to Israel's Supreme Court. In a petition, lawyers for the villagers from Hakol, an Israeli human rights organization, argued that days after the October 7th Hamas attack, a raiding party that included settlers and Israeli soldiers assaulted village residents, threatened murder, and destroyed property throughout the village. They stated that the raid was part of a mass transfer of ancient Palestinian communities, one in which settlers, working hand in hand with soldiers, are taking advantage.
The Jewish state wants to commit ethnic cleansing. Oh my God. Oh, that's awful. That's just the worst. Well, any people that is fighting for its survival will want to remove its enemy, right? Palestinians want to commit ethnic cleansing against Jewish Israelis, right? You've got a fight to the death here between two groups, and until one group expels the other, you're not going to have peace. So ethnic cleansing is not very nice, but moving people 5, 10, 15 miles to other people who share their religion, share their language, share most of their customs, right? That strikes me as a far better fate than being bombed or being brutalized or being mistreated and abused, right? Why would you not want to move out of this hellish situation?
Of the current war in Gaza to achieve the longer-standing goal of cleansing parts of the West Bank, aided by the sweeping and unprecedented disregard of the state and its de facto consent to the massive acts of deportation.
Okay, so we got the neologist in the chat says, the Quran teaches Muslims to commit jihad against a non-Islamic government ruling over land previously ruled by Islamic order. Because of this, there will never be lasting peace between Israel and surrounding Muslim populations. So you view the primary cause of lack of peace is some teaching in the Quran, right? It's not philosophy, it's not theology, it's not religious teaching that is causing this conflict. You have two people who both have strong claims to one bit of land, and they both have reasons to absolutely loathe and hate each other. They don't need Bible texts to hate each other. They don't need Quranic doctrine to hate each other. They hate each other because they have an intense clash of interests, right? Jewish survival and prosperity depends upon subjugating the Palestinians and encouraging them to leave. Palestinian survival and prosperity depends upon the abolition of the Jewish state, right? It's facts on the ground that cause this mutual loathing, because until there is some massive ethnic cleansing, you will have an ongoing conflict and tragedy, right? Two strongly opposed people in the same place will inevitably lead to tragedy, right? Diversity plus proximity frequently leads to tragedy. Why would you want to import this kind of diversity and tragedy into your community?
The Supreme Court agreed to hear the case, and the relief the villagers are seeking, that the law be enforced, might seem modest. But our reporting reveals the degree to which decades of history are stacked against them. After 50 years of crime without punishment, in many ways the violent settlers...
And the neologist says, I am projecting. Yeah, because you had to believe that people are primarily driven by Quranic doctrine or Jewish doctrine or this text in the book of Deuteronomy or this philosophical conception or this ideology or this policy stand. That's not how the world works. You live in a world of delusion. People are primarily driven by their identity and their interests. They're not primarily driven by ideology or theology or philosophy, all right? They're driven by this need of all life to try to create an environment around it which is most optimal for its thriving.